Hello everyone, thank you for attending our Masters in Finance webinar. The webinar is based on the day in the life of a Masters in Finance student. I'm just going to do a brief introduction of me. So my name is Lucky Singh and I'm the Student Recruitment Manager for the Masters in Finance program. And my role really is to help prospective students navigate the Masters in Finance program, to answer any queries or questions you might have about the application process, and to take you through a little bit more about what the Masters in Finance program really entails. Joining me today is Kate Foreman, who is the Program Director for the Masters in Finance program. And we've also got two of our lovely student ambassadors. So these are both two full-time Masters in Finance students who will be graduating very soon in August 2019. So we've got Arpita Bagahera and Tamara Fournier-Marcin. So I just want to take you through briefly how the webinar is going to work today. So Kate will be giving us a brief program overview, and then we will be hearing from Arpita and Tamara, who will give us a brief insight into what being a Masters in Finance student at LBS really entails. And then after that, we'll be opening the panel for our Q&A session, where you can ask any questions that you might have, and you could direct that to either any of us as individuals, or you could open it to the panel. So yes, if you have any questions, please do keep those towards the end, and then you just have to send it through the webinar box, and then we'll pick those and we'll answer them at the end. Great. So to kick off, we've got Kate, who will be giving us the Masters in Finance program overview, and she will be taking us through briefly sort of the MIF program journey, talking a little bit about course content, and also touching upon the clubs and student leadership here on the Masters in Finance program at LBS.
Hi everyone, it's great to be talking to you. So what I was briefly going to do was just give you a quick overview of what the programme looks like in general, and this is the same content for both full-time and part-time students. It's organised slightly differently, so kind of what your day would look like would be different, because obviously if you're doing the full-time version versus the part-time, the courses are structured slightly differently, but all of the content is the same. So everything I talk about is the same for both full-time and part-time. So if we go to the first slide, most of your days will have a strong part of this, and you'll spend a lot of time in these classrooms. I'm sure the ladies will talk to you about what that experience is like. Next slide, you have very occasional days like this, where we take you out of the classroom, and then there's lots in between. So our ambassadors are probably going to give you much more colour and kind of lively account of what their days entail. It's a good mixture of different things, but there is quite a lot of classroom time as well. What that looks like on the next slide is really more just the kind of formal outlay of the programme. So if you've been looking at the programme already, you'll probably have seen lots of these items in our brochure and on the website, but it's organised broadly the same, and this is broadly similar for full-time and part-time. So on the very left there, we have an orientation week, which all of the students come to, and some time before that as well. So you'll do some prep modules online before you start the programme, some administrative items, and then which involve registration. Orientation and away day is a really nice fun first week, and that's where we tell you a lot about the programme, and you get to meet all of your other classmates, and we have opportunities for the full and part-time programmes to meet each other as well, because that's really important, and really immerse yourself into the school. And then the first couple of courses that you do during that first couple of weeks of the programme is the prep accounting and the data analytics. So pretty much everyone takes these. There's the option to waive out of them if you've got a very strong background in these areas, but most people will do these courses, and they're a really good foundation for the degree. And then prior to starting in August, we've also been running some career readiness webinars, which our Career Centre have put on. So that's really to help people start thinking, even before you get to the school, about what you need to be planning and prepping and ready to do when you start. So if you've got an offer from us, that's sort of something that you already see, and then that carries on into orientation with some really good briefings from the Career Centre about kind of how to get straight into looking at the job market, particularly relevant for full-time students, but also for the part-time students. We have a version of that which is more around kind of career planning over the next couple of years. Core courses are pretty self-explanatory. Everyone does these. So there's one, personal assessment and development, which is around kind of you as a leader and on your self-awareness, kind of what your strengths and maybe weaknesses are and how you might want to address those through the program. It's a really useful process for just getting you thinking about what you want to get out of the program. And then we have our more kind of technical core courses, so the accounting, investments, corporate finance, and purpose of finance sits alongside all of those, and it's a little bit more philosophical, so it's a bit more about thinking about what finance is for, what its role in the world is, a piece around ethics, but it's not quite that simple, it's a bit more kind of broad than that. And all of that is designed obviously to make everyone into a really rounded finance professional. So you might specialise in a certain area later in the programme, but we think that everyone needs to know these fundamental things. So everyone will take those core courses through the programme. And then moving on to the right, the electives form quite a large part of the programme, so you take between 8 and 10. Lots of choice. I think currently you can choose from about 40 different courses, and that's something that you will design yourself. So you will pick the things that mean most to you and that you really want to study or look at. And they go on for the remainder of the programme. So if you're in the full-time programme, it's the second, third, maybe fourth term. If you're in the part-time programme, it's mainly your second year, though you can do some of it in the first year as well. And they can lead on to concentrations. So if you want to particularly specialise in an area, you would construct a set of electives that give you that knowledge, as well as taking kind of practitioner courses in the same area. But you don't have to do a concentration. You can organise that how you like. And then just kind of along the bottom is the other pieces that form part of the degree, but aren't maybe the sort of specifically traditional classroom-based activities. So practitioner courses are in the classroom. I'll talk about them in a minute, but they're led by practitioners, practice people, rather than professors, so they're much more around kind of how you apply that knowledge in the workplace. And then we have what we call the professional and leadership skills and the technical skills. So that's more kind of workshop stuff. So for instance, it might be a workshop working on your personal impact, or the technical skills might involve a short course in learning some basic programming and coding. And then we also have the opportunity for you to apply your learning, so you can go on an exchange term. We have a global immersion elective when we travel. Next year it will be Frankfurt and Paris. You can do an internship. Lots of people on the full-time programme will take that option. You can do a business project, which is kind of counts as one of your electives, but you choose the problem that you'd like to work on, and that's supervised by faculty. And then that grey band along the bottom is kind of what we refer to as the finance leadership journey. So that's a whole raft of activities, and I'm sure our ambassadors will talk to you about this, around career management, professional development, in events, networking with employers, perhaps having a one-to-one coaching session with the Careers Centre if you're prepping for an interview. So lots of things going on there that really support your learning. And letting Lucky do the math, she's much better at driving. And just to expand on that piece that I was just talking about, this is the sort of personal skills set of activities. And really what I wanted to do with this slide was just show you how much there is in this area. So you'll spend a lot of time in the classroom working on the important technical finance skills, and that's really, really important. That's why you're here. But equally, we think it's really important that you think about yourself as a manager and as a leader, and you build all the skills that are going to help you alongside that technical knowledge. So we will talk about this much more if you join the programme, but essentially, it starts pre-program. In readiness for that personal assessment and development core course, you do some prep where you do some self-evaluation questionnaire, but you also get 360 feedback from people that you work with, and that's really helpful and just helping you to think about kind of how you come across at work, what you might want to work on, strengths you'd like to build, and we have a piece of group coaching as part of that course as well, so you really get the benefit there. We do a lot around career management. You can see that sort of second section down. It starts with webinars before you join, but then equally there's lots of career modules online. We've got loads of resources on the Career Centre pages. Things around transitioning, so CV and cover letter writing, lots of support there. Lots of sessions exploring different kinds of roles and areas and industries you might want to work in. Up and help you kind of reassess if you're finding that things aren't going quite to plan. We ask people to kind of stay engaged, and we've got activities there. And then further down, the professional and leadership workshops I mentioned earlier, they are part of this building area. And then we also have lots of employer events and networking events as well. So some of this is mandatory. The 2 pieces in red everyone will do. And then the grey, you can do as much as you want. We strongly encourage you to do as much of it as you can, because even if you're not necessarily targeting a job change or something directly in the future, for some of the part-time students, you know, it might be a couple of years off before you're actually thinking you want to change your role. But whilst you're here, we really encourage you to take advantage of these, because they're really good, amazingly well-resourced centre, lots of really useful skills, and they often are very applicable also in the workplace anyway. So just to move on briefly, I've talked briefly about these. We talked just about some of the skills courses. This is what I just mentioned. We have professional and leadership and the technical skills. So that's just to give you a flavour of what we're planning for next year. You would choose from these lists things that are interesting to you, or that skills you'd like to develop. So if, for instance, you have a sales part to your role, you might be interested in consultative selling. If you know that you're going to have to do some change management at some point, I think probably arguably everyone will have to do that at some point. The Embracing Change workshop might be useful to you. So there's a selection, and the idea is that you pick the things that work for you throughout the course of the programme. And same with technical skills. We have things around modelling. We're updating some of that content for next year. Python has been super popular this year. Lots of people are really interested in that. We also run workshops in R if that's something that people are interested in. So again, the idea is that you can kind of pick and choose things that you think will benefit you. And I think that's something probably that the ambassadors might touch on, is there's a lot of choice. Sometimes that is difficult to manage because there's a lot going on and you have to make choices, but we think it's really good that you've got lots of choice, because it gives you lots of opportunities to kind of decide what will be most beneficial to you. And I've just touched on these earlier, the practitioner-led courses. This is the areas we've currently got them in, and again, people get a lot of value out of these. I think being able to chat with people who are actually doing this for their job and kind of what that entails. They bring in loads of fantastic guest speakers from different areas of the industry, so I think that would be really useful. And then finally, and I won't talk too much on this because I'm sure our ambassadors have got much more interesting things to say, but there is a lot of other stuff going on outside the kind of formal classroom. Not all of it formally organised through clubs, but a lot of it, and there's a lot of opportunities to get involved. So if you want to be involved in the clubs and student leadership positions, we really welcome that. This is just a really short set of examples of the kinds of clubs and conferences that we have, but I mean, it is so vibrant here, there's so much going on. You can be as involved as you want in these kinds of things. So really what I've done here is just pick out things that often we find the Masters in Finance students are very interested in. The Finance Club, Investment Management Club, Private Equity Club are in particular some of the ones that people particularly like to join for obvious reasons. And on the right there, you've got some of the big events that the school runs that are all led by students. So I know Tamara was definitely involved in some of that this year with the Women in Business conference. So I'm sure she'll talk about that a little bit. But we just had our first Social Impact Week, which was an amazing success as a school, which involved an Invest for Good day. So the links are on there. When you rewatch this, you can go and have a look at kind of the full set. It's all on our website, and you could just see how much is going on. So if anything, there's probably too much choice, but hopefully that's a nice problem to have. That's what we think. So I think that was everything I was going to talk about. So I'll hand over to the much more interesting topic of what you'll actually be doing.
Thank you so much, Kate. It was really, really insightful. So now we will be handing over to our student ambassadors. So to kickstart will be Arpita, but then from there, Tamara and Arpita will both be talking about the academic, professional, and personal opportunities that they've faced while being at LBS and studying the Masters in Finance program. So over to you, Arpita.
Hello everyone, I'm Arpita Bhabhira. I'm a Masters in Finance full-time student. I'm originally from India, and that's where I did my Chartered Accountancy and CFA. I worked in the Financial Advisory Department of Deloitte before I decided to come to LBS. So my main objective of coming to LBS was the exposure and the experience that I'd gained from the 1 year. But this 1 year has been so much more than I expected it to be. I think the biggest strength of LBS is its diversity. We are a class of 120 people from over 34 countries, and when it comes to academics, the classroom discussions were so interactive, and there was so much to learn, not just from the extremely esteemed professors, but even from one another, because we had people from different countries who had worked in corporate finance, investment management, investment banking, you name it, and that person was there in class. In terms of electives, we had a wide range to choose from. I wanted to transition into investment management, and that's why I picked my electives accordingly. I did a course called Topics in Asset Management, and that gave me a very good flavor for the asset management industry entails. We had like professionals come in and speak to us. In this picture, you can see the chief of AQR Institute, Mr. Stan Beckers. He obliged to take a selfie with us after a lunch. And I did some other electives like distressed investing, world economy, negotiations, which is a fantastic course, and I'd recommend all of you to take if you did decide to join. I did value investing, which is an extremely intense course, but I've learned so much from it. Besides the academics and the courses, I feel like I learned so much from the clubs and the activities around LBS. I joined the investment management club, and the club is very hands-on. It had so many speakers coming in and talking about different things. It had stock pitching workshops. I participated in a couple of stock picking competitions, which helped me land a couple of internships. And I consciously decided to do things other than finance at my time here, because this 1 year at LBS is not just about professional growth, but I also feel it's about individual growth. I decided to join the TEDx London Business School team. I was a part of the speakers team there, and we were responsible of deciding which 16 people would come in and talk at the event. I joined the India Club, and we organized the Diwali party, which was a lot of singing and dancing. We had people who were not Indians dance to Indian songs and have a great time, even though they had no idea what the songs meant. I also did a couple of treks. I went for the Norway sea kayaking and hiking trek, which was 2 days of sea kayaking and hiking 25 kilometers in 1 day. I must assure you that it was extremely painful, but it was worth all the pain because it was really pretty. There's a picture on the bottom left where you can see the entire MIF crew that's taken from the MIF Sundowners. Sundowners are this thing that happen at LBS every Thursday evening where you just get to socialize with everyone. It's 2 hours of free food and free drinks. Nobody wants to miss this. Yeah, that's about it. I've had a great time, and I think Tamara will talk to you more about this now.
Thank you so much, Arpita. That was really, really insightful. I'm going to hand over to Tamara, and she can tell you a little bit about her and her experiences.
Thank you, and thank you for joining. I'm Tamara. I'm from Mexico, and I'm a full-time master in finance student. Before joining LBS, I studied international business, and I work in the real estate finance in the largest PE firm in Mexico for almost 7 years. I decided to do the Master in Finance program because I was looking for a 1-year accelerated program focused in finance that allowed me to expand my financial knowledge, but also improve my technical skills. Given the stage in my career, I thought an MBA program was not suitable for me. However, I still wanted to get the LBS experience, so that's why the Master in Finance was a perfect fit in what I was looking for. I decided to choose LBS because I wanted to build a diverse global network and the opportunity to work with people from different geographical and professional backgrounds located in the biggest financial hub. I was surprised when I joined LBS. Since the application process, I was amazed of the support I received of current students, of LBS staff, and also alumni in Mexico and worldwide to give me more information about the program. And since then I understood that the LBS culture was a very helpful culture, and that even without knowing you, like, you will always find someone to help you out. In this slide, this is the Master in Finance graduating class of this year. We're 126 students, 39 nationalities. We have 5.5 years of work experience, and we're 35% female. But I really think that the most important thing I'm taking off besides the academic experience. It's like the friends and relationships I've been developing in this complete year. On the next slide, I joined several professional and academic events. I was part of 2 excos on different student clubs. First was a Women in Business Club, where I was a MIF co-head, and I organized a Women in Business annual conference for this year. This was a very good experience because it didn't just allow me to network with the speakers or C-level speakers and attendees on the event, but I also worked a lot with LBS communications and advancement teams and also marketing teams. So it allowed me to also work with LBS staff and obviously like students. We had 400 students attending this year, and it was one of the best experience I had. I also joined the Real Estate Club, EXCO. I was the speaker series head of the EXCO, and I organized around 6 speaker series in the campus. I also joined other clubs like the Finance Club and the Private Equity Club. And so I joined the London Private Equity Trek, which was a very good experience for me because I get to visit the office of the most important private equity firms in London, and I even got recruiting processes with them because of joining the Trek. I also joined the London Development Trek and a lot of networking events, especially for some LATAMs and the LATAM people that are working here. And then the next one, this is the fun slide. I could join a lot of treks. The treks are some trips that are organized by some clubs and LBS. The 2018 MIF Dublin Trek was organized by one of our colleagues that is from Dublin. So he decided he will organize a trip to his hometown, and we were like 15 MIF students joining that trek for a weekend. I also got a ticket because it's very difficult for the snow trek. We were like also 8 MIF students on the trek, and this was one of the best experience because we were like 300 LBS students in Val Thorens in France for a week skiing. So it was really, really fun, and it also allowed me to expand my network with MBA students and other programs like MIM and MFAs. I joined the Canary Island Trek. This was in February, so it was perfect timing because I needed a little bit of sun. Then I joined the London to Paris Cycling Trek. I joined the cycling trek and the cycling club and the running club of LBS. And this was one of the best experience I've had because we cycled from LBS to the Eiffel Tower in 3 days, and it was like 350K for 3 days. We were like 21 LBS students, and it was really, I think this is one of the best stories I can have in LBS. Then I joined the Israel Trek. We were 80 LBS students for a week in Israel. And this trek was really it really impressed me because it was very cultural. It had a lot of party also, but it was every day we had a speaker talking about the Israeli and Palestinian conflict, about the Syrian conflict. So it allowed me to understand better the culture. The food is amazing. The people are great, and it was a very good trek. And I really recommend the LBS parties. I think you can have a party every week, but the Santa party was amazing. We were like 300 LBS students all dressed up in Santa, taking off of Trafalgar Square. And Tattoo, that's the biggest LBS party. I think this year was like 1,200 people in the party, and it was also very, very fun. So, I think now we will continue.
Yes, thank you so much, Tamara. So thank you to all three ladies for chatting to us. Really, really insightful, and I hope that we've already answered some, if not all, the questions that you might have had. I'm going to open the panel now to our Q&A session. So feel free to ask any of us as individuals any questions that you might have. Please send them through, or you could just open it to the panel, and then we'll just decide who the best people might be to respond. So we've already actually got a question from Intorn Chide, and the question is, does the program request a GMAT? So I'll answer that for you. We do require our prospective students to have sat the GMAT, but we also do open it up a little bit more, so you can either sit the GMAT or you sit the GRE, but we can talk to you about sort of what the kind of scores that are most competitive are, and in some instances we do offer exceptions, but those are sort of very rare. So for most, if not all of our students, we do require that they sit a GMAT or a GRE test. So we have another question, and that's coming up is, what is the best part of the Masters in Finance program? So I'm going to open that to our lovely ambassadors. So yeah, please do tell us.
I think the diversity of the Masters in Finance program, how you make friends and great relationships despite differences in nationalities, cultures, age differences, is definitely the best part about LBS. We have the course started with many housewarming parties, and then we had many parties organized by LBS, and now as the year is ending, we have people from different nationalities organizing dinners for the authentic food. Today evening, Tamara and I are going to be going to eat authentic Xi'an food, which is a region from China. So yes, that's definitely...
Oh, sounds amazing.
Yeah, I will add to that definitely knowing all different people and different with a lot of diversity. But also, I think the admissions team does a really good job on selecting the profile of each student, because it's amazing. Like when you get here, you can't, like, I really thought, like, I don't know why they choose me, but they, like, everybody has a really interesting story. They have, like, reading books, they travel around all the world, doing, like, a lot of sports things. Like, it's amazing the profile of people you can meet here. And also it gives you a really good opportunity to work with them, because at the beginning that you have study groups that are selected by the LBS program office, and you have the opportunity to work on group assignments on your core courses with people from all different countries. So I think that's a very good experience, because then you will be prepared to work in a company where you can say you have worked with people from all around the world.
Brilliant, lovely. We have another question, and I think this is to the ambassadors. So Dennis said to Arpita, you talked about investment management club. I have seen that they had a student investment fund. However, fund performance reports end in 2016. Is it still operational? If it is, are you participating in it? And could you walk me through what you do there?
So yes, the student investment fund is still very much operational. However, I'm not on the SIF fund. I am a member of the investment management club, where I solely attend events organized by them. I've participated in the workshops that they've organized. So I'm not on the exco of the investment management club, so I cannot tell you much about why the reports aren't published, but I could probably get you in touch with the next incoming presidents if you have any more questions.
Thank you. So we have another question from Hao Wang, and he says, what do you think are the common characteristics shared by LBS MIF students?
Who wants to take that one?
I think, personally from my experience, every MIF student is so helpful. Everyone is trying to push each other to do their best. For example, if I know that somebody wants to get into venture capital, and if I come across some venture capital opportunity, I'll definitely pass it on to that person, because I know that person is really looking forward to it. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I think it's a very collaborative class. Everyone wants the best for the class in general, and it's not like some other places where everyone is just looking for their own benefit.
Yes.
So also, I think an important thing here is like the grades. You can only see your grades, so your grades are not public. So I think that can be helpful because, like, well, first everybody has a finance background, but everybody has a different finance background. So you will find accountants, maybe people working in asset management, other people working at private equity, investment banking. So you get to learn also from your colleagues. I remember I never seen an LBO model before, and I had some friends helping me out to prepare one for an interview. So I think everybody is very helpful, but they're also willing to share their knowledge, and I think that's some characteristic you will find in everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
I think if I can just add to that as well from experience working with the program, I think everyone's, I totally agree, and I think also everyone's really motivated. Like, I think you're with a group of people who really all want to get the best out of the experience, and I think that really kind of combined with that collaboration, it means that people really kind of want to make it the best experience they can, and everyone's obviously, you know, potentially taking a year or 2 years of extra time to kind of further your own development is quite a big and powerful thing to do. So I think everyone really kind of shares that goal, and that, like as the girls have said, that kind of really means that people put in a lot of effort and want to make it a good experience for everyone, and a lot of the good experiences come from the class, not necessarily the formal activities. So I think it's a really good group of people, and it's amazing to think that it's 120 really good people. It's so many people, but everyone's like really fantastic, and I think it's a nice group of people that means most people know each other as well, which adds something.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd like to say that all the students, all the prospective students that are then accepted onto the program are people who are extremely active in the community, who want to make a difference, and have already either involved in charities or in sort of a social impact or a cause. So really thinking not just about themselves and their own development, but also sort of the development of society and other people in general. I think that really does set the MIF students apart from a lot of other students. So we have another question from Minal Agarwal, and he's asked, is work experience mandatory? Does the program accept students straight out of a bachelor's degree? So yes, the Master in Finance program only accepts students, it's a mid-career level program, so we only accept students on the course with a minimum of 2 years work experience, and ideally looking for a little bit more, sort of at least sort of ideally 3, and then on the full-time course the average is about 5 years, and on the part-time the average is about 7. And the reason why we do request this is because you want to feel like you're bringing your work experience into the class, and you'll share work experience and your knowledge and your expertise with your colleagues. But we do have sort of early career programs that you can always have a look at to see if you'd be eligible. So we do have a suite of other programs that you might be interested in. Great, lovely. And then Felicia Zhu has asked, does your undergraduate matter? For example, is a history degree at a disadvantage? Is a history degree at a disadvantage relative to an economics and finance degree?
I can jump in and take that one. I think we're open to receiving applications from any kind of sort of formal discipline. We do have people who maybe haven't studied business or economics or finance before, and that's fine. What we would want to see is that you'd be okay with the quantitative piece of the degrees. That's quite important. So usually if someone maybe, for instance, had a history degree, they would be able to show us through kind of either professional qualifications, maybe the CFA, or kind of the work that you're doing currently, or perhaps other activities that could show us that you've got the kind of quantitative ability, because it's a very technical course, so you need to be able to handle that, and it wouldn't be fair of us to kind of take someone that didn't have that background. And I think also your professional experience would be really important. So if you're applying with that kind of background, make sure in an application you kind of make it really clear to us what you're doing. And as we've talked about, it's a really important part for the programme that everyone's kind of with people that have something to bring to the classroom. And that could be definitely from your professional experience, probably even more so rather than maybe the undergraduate degree you did. But definitely you'd need to be able to just kind of evidence the quant side of things. But there's various ways we do that, and the recruitment and admissions team can kind of help people through with individual queries on that kind of thing.
Yes, and I see, Felicia, that you've also asked, is the GMAT sufficient to prove mathematical competence? I think it definitely helps. But as Kate said, we look at the range of different things in terms of your profile. So that would be your GMAT score, it'd be your professional experience, and it'd be some of the other, if you had a CFA, for example. So it's really, we assess the whole of the application before making any decisions or judgments. Great. So we've got another question from Santiago, and Santiago's asked, I'm trying to decide between LBS's MIF and MBA programs. What advice would you have for someone in my situation? So maybe I'll open it to the ambassadors.
I think they market MIF as the MBA equivalent for people who want to specialize in finance. So if you're sure about wanting to be in finance, you definitely should do the MIF over the MBA, because that means that your core courses will be focused on finance programs. You'll be able to specialize in, say, investment management or corporate finance or risk and derivatives. But if you're unsure and you may want to try out other things, then probably MBA is a better fit for you, because we've seen sometimes that consulting firms come in and they tell the students that, oh, if you wanted to do consulting, why did you join the MIF? But when it comes to other finance-oriented careers, there is no difference, and I'd rather do the MIF over the MBA when you're sure about it.
Brilliant.
I would add to that it also depends on what you're looking for regarding the pace of the program. The MBA is much more relaxed. The MIF is very intense on the first 6 months, 4 months from August to December. The second term you can choose your elective, so it's a little bit more lighter, but I can tell there's a big difference between MBA and MIF and in the first terms. They have a very relaxed pace. I think they have to do around 12 electives, and we have to do from 8 to 10, so they have to do like almost the same amount of electives in 2 years, and we have just 6 months, or 10 months if you are doing the 4th term. So I think that's a very big difference between MBAs and MIFs. But what I liked a lot about the MIF is that you can always take the 4th term and do an internship. So you can always have that experience of doing an internship and trying something different, and then decide what you want to do after graduating.
To add to that, you may also want to take into account the duration and the costs that you're willing to bear, because the MBA is minimum 15 months. It can go up to 18 or 21 months as well. The MIF you can complete in 10 months or 16 months. And if I'm not wrong, the MIF fees are about like half of what the MBA fees are.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything the ambassadors have said. So I think obviously they're kind of structured slightly differently as programs. And exactly like Arpita said, if you know you want to do finance and you really want to dive really deep into that, then the MIF is absolutely the right option. You can do a lot of finance in the MBA. We have a kind of finance track within it, but it doesn't go into quite the depth, and we don't have all the additional practitioner elements. It's not quite as deep dive. Finance as well, of course, it's 2 years, but again, it's that deep dive, which really suits some people, maybe as opposed to thinking about kind of the executive MBA, which might not work for some people as well. And I think the other thing to point out as well is that the group is smaller, so there's 120 people on the MIF full time, and then about 70 people in the part-time cohort. Whereas the MBA is around 490 students per year. So although they still have a really strong bond, I think the experience is different, and these guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you get to know everyone on the Masters in Finance. You know pretty much everyone doing it at the same time as you,
Whereas on the MBA, just because it's quite a bit bigger, you might not know everyone the same. You'll obviously have friends in your stream you'll know very well, but you don't tend to know the whole community in the same way. And that just really suits some people better. People prefer maybe that experience, or not. They prefer to be in a bigger group, but it's another thing to consider and kind of what your preference would be.
Great, fantastic. And then Felicia sent us a question saying, to the ambassadors, what was the most important thing you learned during your time at LBS? It's quite a
deep question.
I don't know if it's the most important thing that I learned during my time at LBS, but one thing that I'd like to share is that I think it's very important to have your agenda for coming to LBS clear right from the beginning, because there are so many things that keep happening here in terms of academics, careers, social life, that it can get a little overwhelming. So if you know what you've come here for, it can help you make your choices better. Like, of course, like too much choice is never a bad thing, but if you know what you want to get out of the year over here, you'll be better off at navigating your way through the course. And for example, like if you want to take the year off to decide what you want to do in the future, it'll be helpful to not get embroiled in the rat race and applying to all the companies right from week one. But if you've come with the agenda of finding a job and settling in London, then it would help to not miss out on deadlines and focus on that more than just attending parties and trips every weekend. So striking a balance is important, and knowing what your agenda is very important.
Yeah, for me, I think it's kind of the same. I think I've learned a lot to prioritize and to choose what I wanted to do. At the beginning, you have tons of clubs to get involved. There's, I think, I'm not kidding, every day you have something to do in different clubs. So you have to choose wisely, and also you have to organize well your budget, because everything has a cost. So you have to decide what you should join or not. Also some trips, also school. It's very, at the beginning is very intense. So you have to at the beginning you will put a lot of time in your study groups and your group assignments for the core courses. So I think that definitely has, it's choosing, prioritizing what I wanted to do at that time, and that's what I've learned the most.
Lovely, that's great. Thank you so much. So we have another question, which is, how have you managed your time whilst being on the Masters in Finance program at LBS?
By cutting down on sleep. No, that's a joke.
You're not the only person that says it.
Like Tamara said, you just need to prioritize. So there have been different phases in my last 1 year where different things were more important to me. For instance, in the first 2-3 months, just figuring out what I wanted to do after LBS was more important. So I spent my time attending different events by different clubs, different speaker series, by different companies, by just talking to the career center about different things. Then I decided that, this is the time when I'm going to get to travel and to take time off. So I started investing a lot of my time in traveling. I went to some 7 countries in the last 9 months. It may be very normal for a few of you, but I never traveled so much before coming to LBS. Now that I have my value investing program, which is very intensive, all my time is focused on that. So I think the way you balance your time over the year keeps changing, and will all depend on how you prioritize things.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's
yeah, definitely. Great, lovely. And I suppose there's another question that's come up, is what's the key difference in terms of part-time and full-time? Just give us a brief overview, Kate.
Sure, I can do that. So as I said, all the content is the same, it's just done in a different way. So the full-time program, as these guys have done a really good job of showing, is kind of over a year at least, if not 16 months if you choose to stay a bit longer. And you will be a full-time student, so you can expect to spend most of your day at school. The first term is when you do the core courses, so it's very intensive, as Tamara mentioned. And then that means that then after, sort of as you get to the Christmas of the first year, you can then move on to doing the electives, and you've got a bit more control there. You design your own time. And kind of by being full-time, obviously it comes with kind of maybe some stresses because you wouldn't be working at the time, but you also have a bit more of the time to devote to kind of thinking about what you want to do next and the careers piece. And probably a bit more availability to get involved in a lot of the club activity. I do think, being really honest, that's a bit easier if you're a full-time student, just because there's so much going on. If you've just got a little bit more time to play with, I think that helps. For the part-time students, so it's a 2-year program. It is possible to do it in 18 months, but most people do 2 years. The first year is spent on the core courses, so you will come in on a Friday evening and a Saturday all day, every other weekend. So you come and do orientation week in August, and then from there it's every other weekend. So most people will come in on a Friday evening after work. A lot of people based in London, but we do have some people who come in from Europe. And usually on a Friday evening you'll do a tutorial or a lecture, and then Saturday you'll have lectures. And then as you do all the core courses in the first year, so 1 course per term, and then as you get to later in the first year and into the second year, you'll be doing the electives. And again, you design that how you want. We've got loads of different courses and lots of different formats, so you kind of design that to work for you. And that's particularly good, I think, for the part-time students, because if you've got work that you're juggling as well, having the flexibility of being able to do courses in different ways is really helpful. You can definitely be involved in all the other activities as a part-time student. Again, it's a bit kind of how much you want to do. We appreciate it's a bit harder, so I think what tends to happen is roles kind of like these guys were talking about, where they were involved in particularly organising or the executive committee for a club. That tends to be the full-time students that do that, just because it's a bit easier to manage that if you've got kind of flexibility on your time. But certainly the part-time students always attend a lot of events, so they will often come to a lot of the events. And kind of the same advice that Peter gave, if you know where you're coming and what you're interested in, I think as a part-time student that can help you decide where you'd like to use your free time to maybe come to a conference or something like that. And then I think also, again, relevant for both, but we tend to see more with the part-time. You obviously have to think about how it might impact with families. So, you'll be spending some weekend days away from family. So if we've got lots of people with kind of young children and partners, and so we try to kind of, there's ways that they can get involved. There's a partners club, and we have a few events that involve the kids as well, but it's also a consideration. So it's kind of extra time management maybe on the part-time as well, just because you will need to kind of manage that carefully, but equally probably no different to when you're on the full-time program. There's still so much choice, and that's still time management as well. It's just in a different way, but the experience in the classroom is really similar, and you can still get involved in all the same activities.
Brilliant, thank you so much. So we have another question from Dennis, and I think this is for the ambassadors again. Was there anything that you regret missing out on during this year, and what was it? Bittersweet question.
Yeah. So, I think I would like to have, I would like to have more time in the first term. I really put a lot of time in studying and for my core courses because I have seen a little bit of accounting, but I didn't have any accounting background, so for me it was very tough. So I had to study a lot and put a lot of time there. So yeah, the first term I was I was supposed to have the best time of my life, and I'm studying every weekend in the library, but it's not that I regret it. It's just maybe I had to put more attention in class or something. I would have definitely done that differently. And I think in my case, I started I thought I wanted to try something new, so I started I went to literally every presentation, every company presentation. So I applied to very a lot different roles, and at the end I realized talking with people that I wanted to keep on doing real estate. So I think if I had focused before since the beginning and looking for real estate, it would be easier for me, even though I had a very good opportunities and interviews. So I think it's easier if you know what you want to do after the program. It's definitely easier, but it's a lot of people join to figure it out, so it's also okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Tamara is right. I feel like I spent too much time on studying my core courses, and that was despite me having accounting background. You just see people around you putting in that much time that it is easy to get into the same rut. I think another thing that I would have probably done differently is spread out my courses a little more. I took on 5 electives from Jan to March, and I had a part-time internship going along with it. So Jan to March for me was literally just running from my internship to class and class to working on my assignment. I did go for social events and I did do trips even then, but I feel like now that I'm doing the 4th term, there was no need to put the additional pressure between Jan to March for me.
Great, thank you. One question we have is, what does a typical sort of Master in Finance student day look like for you guys?
I think every day is different. It may depend on what electives you've chosen, what your academic timetable looks like, what the career center has planned for you around then. In the beginning, there's a lot of CV and cover letter making sessions. Then you go on to applying for jobs. You go on to meeting people and having coffee chats with different people. Right now, because some of the people are leaving, it's a lot of social events. The beginning had a lot of social events because people were trying to get to know each other. So every day is very different. You realize that you won't see some of the people in the year because they're traveling a lot. Yeah.
And you're traveling a lot as well.
I'm traveling a lot as well.
I would add the first term, I think it's much more structured, the schedule, and you get to see all the class a lot much more, because on the second term of the second part of the year, everybody chooses their elective, so there's some people you won't see if you don't have like the same interests as they do. So if you want to do an asset management course, and I was not really into that, so I there's some friends I never see because they just took like these asset management electives, and I took more like private equity or other kind of electives. I would say that first term, I think we had classes 3 or 4 times a week. So you have like one free week at the free day in the week, but you're always doing group assignments. So like you could see everybody in the library working. And the second one, it's a little bit more free, and I did the same as Arpita. I got 5 electives in the first 3 months, which also I think it was not a very good decision. But my idea was focusing on recruiting for from this term, from April till now, and that worked. So I think like everybody can manage their own schedule for the second part of the year as they want to.
Brilliant, thank you so much. So I think we're coming to the end now. We've got a couple of minutes. So I suppose the last question would be to the ambassadors, and it would be, so you're coming to the end of your time here at London Business School and on the Master in Finance program. So where to next? What is your next moves?
I have my internship starting next week with AB Bernstein. It's equity research in London, and then I come back to LBS to do my 4th term. So although LBS does not end for me right now itself, like half of my class is leaving, so I don't know if the 4th term will feel the same. So that's why I still continue to feel the bittersweet feeling. And beyond December, I don't know. I think I'm going to just go with the flow.
Brilliant.
Well, our graduation is like in 1 month almost, at the 12th, but I'm doing a block week exchange the last week of July in Columbia in New York, and after that I will end with LBS. But I got a job in Spain, so I'm staying in Europe, and I'm moving to Madrid in August. So that's
wonderful. Great, thank you so much. So I'm going to wrap the Q&A session up now. Thank you so much for all your questions. I hope we've answered them to the best of our ability. But if you have any other questions, please do email us at mif@london.edu. But you can also go onto the website and have a look at our brochures and have a look at our student ambassadors. You can get in contact with Arpita and Tamara if you have any questions for them. But yes, please do get in touch, and I hope you found the webinar insightful and interesting. And thank you so much to Kate, Arpita and Tamara for joining us.